Hello everyone and welcome to Very Cold Lasagna. I am your host, Dylan Lasagna, and this is episode number 266 of this icy yet spicy podcast for all your filthy casual takes on the world of sports for you casual fans out there like you and me. In this episode, we're here to talk about WrestleMania. Yes, the most recent WrestleMania that went down this past weekend in the home of the Las Vegas Raiders in Allegiant Stadium, the 41st edition of the grandest stage of them all, or at least it should feel like it, right? Yes, WrestleMania 41. Now, I've talked about it in my retro Road to WrestleMania miniseries about how this doesn't feel like WrestleMania season, how this didn't feel like the Road to WrestleMania, this most recent one, and I debated whether I wanted to review this WrestleMania that just happened, and well, it's not, I guess you can call it a review, but it's not technically a review. More so like just my general thoughts on this WrestleMania. And boy, do I have a lot to say about it in just like kind of review-ish episode of the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. So before I get my thoughts on this past WrestleMania, follow me on social media at Very Cold Lasagna, whether it's on Instagram or Twitter at Very Cold Lasagna. Listen to the show wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's on Apple or Spotify. And if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and leave your comments down below and your final thoughts on WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas. Did you go to the show? Did you watch it wherever you were, whether it was at home or went to the bar to watch it, or wherever you decide to watch it? And what was your favorite moment of this past WrestleMania? Did you like or not like this WrestleMania? And there's probably going to be a good amount that were on one side of the fence or the other. Let me know all your thoughts on this past WrestleMania that just went down. And as always, share this with your friends, share this with your neighbors, share this podcast with whoever's around you, whether it's at work or school. Share the good, the bad, the ugly about Very Cold Lasagna. So with that being said, let's talk about WrestleMania 41. Yes, the 41st annual edition of WrestleMania 41 that just went down in Las Vegas at the home of the Raiders, Allegiant Stadium. And like I said at the top of the show, I was not excited at all for this WrestleMania. The storylines or the lack thereof, it sucked. This show was going to look like it absolutely sucked. And you know what I hate the most about the IWC? And I'm guilty of this too sometimes. And honestly, I can't really put myself can't really consider myself to be part of the IWC because, you know, I'm a filthy casual. Comparison. A lot of people in the IWC or the internet wrestling community, even the YouTube wrestling community, were comparing this build-up, or the lack thereof, this very terrible build-up to WrestleMania 31. This WrestleMania 41 build-up to a WrestleMania that happened 10 years ago. And for those of you that don't remember the build-up to WrestleMania 31, I mentioned this in my retro review of that show, a show that I actually went to down south in the Bay Area 10 years ago, my first ever WrestleMania. At least with that WrestleMania, it had actual storylines. And yes, it was shitty storylines, but it had actual stories heading into the show. Again, crappily built storylines, but at least there was kind of something going on. Hell, you even had the pre-show Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, a battle royal filled with jobbers that had some subplots going into it, like Axelmania, Running Wild, the Damien Mizdow and The Miz, their tension finally coming into a big boil. Then you also had whatever was going on with Ryback being the big favorite, as well as the Big Show. Then you had the Seth Rollins Randy Orton feud, Sting versus Triple H. You had Cena versus Rusev. What exactly did you have with this WrestleMania that was so well built? Like, really, what did you have? Like, what was there that was so properly built up for this WrestleMania? Like, what? One match? One match that was kind of properly built up? That wasn't so one-dimensional? I really couldn't think of one. that was so one that was properly taken care of. So on top of the horrible buildup for this Mania, oh boy, the cherry topper for this Mania was the little public relations run that Triple H and Nick Khan, CON by the way, that they decided to go on in the week before WrestleMania. Like, they decided to spew out some stupid stuff. On various networks, various podcasts, what you name it. And there's also some stuff about from a variety of people from the WWE as well, namely wrestlers as well. But the big talking point was, WWE talking about, the internet fans specifically. Before I get to that point though, a lot of this talk from this PR run was, some of it at least, was wrestlers being asked about their political views. And I don't talk about that here on Very Cold Lasagna, and never will. We don't do politics here. We keep away from that. We don't do that here. It's like we really want to stick to pro wrestling and sports, because we just want to have a good time here. We just want to have a good time here, pal. Just giving our filthy casual opinions as a casual fan on what we stick to. So going back to what Triple H and Nick Khan, CON, were talking about in the lead up to this WrestleMania. Well, I don't want to give the full quote because you can pretty much paraphrase it pretty easily, because they pretty much both said in two separate interviews that they don't listen to internet fans that criticize the product. Rather, they listen to the fans that are in the arena that mindlessly watch the slop that Triple H and Nick Khan give the fans, that are willing to be sheep, that are willing to be bots in the arena, that are willing to watch the mindless, repetitive stuff that Triple H, creates for them. So, from what I took away from this was Triple H and Nick Khan, CON, they're willing to be complacent. They're willing to be repetitive. They're willing to, be mediocre. Kind of like Kyle Shanahan from the 49ers. Kind of like Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys. They're willing to be complacent. They do realize that a person, no matter what medium it is, specifically wrestling, they can be a fan and a critic at the same time, right? Like, again, it literally exists in any form of media, whether it's wrestling, it's television, it's film, and sports. Like, it has existed for the longest time, Like, I get it. There are different ways for people to enjoy these mediums, where it's just sitting back and relaxing, or watching it verbatim, like I said. Being a critic and analyzing these things in whatever way, shape, or form that you do. I mean, the way I see it for Triple H and Nick Khan in the lead up to this Mania, and probably after it, is just that Triple H and Nick Khan are just super mad. Because most people, even the casuals, are seeing, and they're smart enough to see that this road to WrestleMania, and, well, they're thinking the event itself, it sucked. It absolutely sucked. And I'm not trying to, I'm trying my best not to bash the fans out there that do enjoy the slop that Triple H is feeding you, the repetitive slop. More power to you if you like it, especially on this road to WrestleMania that we finally endured. But for me, I expect more quality, no matter what I'm watching or being exposed to. Doesn't matter if it's wrestling, doesn't matter if it's whatever my Niners are producing or did produce last season. I expect more. No matter if it's my favorites on TV, like Liv Morgan, Dominic, Roman Reigns, John Cena. I expect it. I just expect more of them, whether it's the creative themselves, whatnot. And yeah, I guess so my next point with wrestling, I just want to be invested in both the stories and the characters, and having a reason to care for the matches. But Triple H is not doing any of that right now. Not for this WrestleMania, not in general, and for most things for the last 2 years. So, yeah, they didn't give me one reason to care about this road to WrestleMania. And fans could give all the excuses in the world on how bad this road to WrestleMania was, whether it was high ticket prices, which, fair enough. The ticket prices were that bad, given that it was Vegas. And I actually considered going to this WrestleMania, and I was actually planning, once it was announced last year, to go to this WrestleMania with somebody. And when I saw those ticket prices, yeah, I can see why that's somebody. They dipped, and understandable. I was disappointed, but it took me some time to realize that, yeah, those prices, yeah, it was a justifiable. It was a little bit of a justifiable reason. I'm not saying that it was, but yeah, the ticket prices were so bad. It was so bad. Going back to the excuses, though, you had the ticket prices, the NBA playoffs, the Vegas Golden Knights' own playoff run, and also to mention the fact that this thing was on Easter weekend, too. And people were making an excuse about that, too, but WWE is at fault, too. Nick Khan is at fault for putting this thing on Easter weekend. It's like, what dumb reasoning was that for? Oh, to avoid the Final Four. Like, you're competing with the NBA playoffs and the Stanley Cup, right? You also had to reconfigure the arena once game one of the Golden Knights was done with. They do know that, right? So anyway, I want to finally get into the match card, because bottom line is that Triple H, he didn't book this Mania well at all. And his and Nick Khan's defensive public relations tour, it didn't help them at all. But when it came to the actual show itself, was it going to suck as bad as this WrestleMania? This pre-WrestleMania build itself? Well, let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at each and every match that happened on both nights. And, well, was it as bad as this WrestleMania, Road to WrestleMania itself? Well, let's see if history was going to repeat itself, just like 32 years ago, back at Caesar's Palace when WrestleMania 9 took place. So we started off with night one as the World Heavyweight Champion Gunther, the Ring General, defended his title against the Royal Rumble winner, Jey Uso. Like I said, Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble on a shock victory, eliminating John Cena. And I was initially going to give him the benefit of the doubt, because I would wait and see how Triple H would, try to make Jey Uso a threat to Gunther in his world title. The issue was, Jey Uso had already lost to Gunther 3 times, I believe. And the most recent one came not just a week prior to the Royal Rumble at Saturday Night's Main Event. So it was going to be a tall task for Jey to be an actual threat to Gunther. And once Jey chose Gunther 2 weeks after, Triple H did them no favors, booking them in the same crap every week for the last month and a half. Brawl, brawl, brawl. Either one of them gained the upper hand. And then it finally picked up steam, but it was too late. Gunther would brutalize Jey, but in a way to break him mentally. With Gunther bloodying Jimmy, his brother, 2 weeks ago in the front of a zip-tied Jimmy. And Jey would go on to cut this serious promo on Gunther without beating him down, which I thought he should have. And then on the go-home show, he turned it back around and go back to yeeting. Like, what is it with this inconsistent booking? Like, why did he go from serious Jey and then the next week go yeet? Why? It's like, what are we doing? What is it with this inconsistencies? So it's not only the inconsistencies with the feud, but I mean, I like Jey Uso. I like how he's risen to popularity. But the problem is just he's not a bad wrestler either. He has a cool ass entrance, but the yeet thing does get kind of annoying, and his promos with the yeet, it doesn't make him serious. It really doesn't. And it doesn't help when the bots in the crowd don't help when he's trying to cut that serious ass promo and they're yeeting. They were yeeting. So I was heading into this match and thinking that, yeah, Jey had lost to Gunther like 3 times already. and you gave him the Royal Rumble, and pretty much you're in a bind. Triple H is gonna have no choice but to give Jey Uso the World Heavyweight title because of his elevated yet kind of flawed stardom, and also how bad he fucked up Gunther's title run. Like, he gave Gunther the World Heavyweight title, but you booked him so inconsistently. Like, you made him super confident, and then when he had to face Damian Priest again, he looked like a coward because him being Damian Priest, him and Rhea Ripley were super OP during that time late last year, and then Gunther went back to being confident again after he beat Damian Priest. So yeah, like, Gunther's booking was so inconsistent during this title run. So the match itself was just like the feud. Very flat, never got out of first gear, kind of slow at times too. But at least we got the right result. But man, did I hate how it went down. Like, Jey Uso got his offense in. He hit the spear. He hit the Uso splash. But he used a sleeper hold. And I wouldn't be having an issue with that if Gunther didn't look like a punk ass tapping out to Jey Uso that quickly. Now, some people are saying, Gunther is prone to submission holds. His weakness, his kryptonite is submission holds. Like, casuals don't know that. Casuals like me don't know that, okay? It's like we don't go watch for 24 hours to see NXT UK. So it's like we don't know that. So, yeah. Like, all of us normal people are not going to be able to take Gunther seriously because we don't know this shit. So, it's hard for someone like me to take Gunther seriously for a while because, yeah, that's pretty much a cherry topper to a world title reign full of him getting cucked. Yeah, he got cucked during his title reign. But regardless, I'm very happy for Jey Uso because, he was a key part to the origins of the Bloodline story, and yeah, he showed his worth during that whole 3-year storyline with Roman, Jimmy, and Sammy, and yeah, he's risen as a singles competitor. Because however you feel about the whole Yeet thing, his limited wrestling ability, he clearly brings in the casual appeal. He's a strong ratings, merch, social draw for the WWE. And I like the emotional moment for him and his brother to celebrate that title for Jey. So the match, I didn't like it, but the result is what mattered. And at least it was a positive for me. What wasn't a positive, though, was the World Tag Team Championship match that we got next. And that involved the War Raiders taking on the New Day. Why is this match even on the card? The War Raiders, they haven't done jack shit with the titles. Like with the Judgment Lane when they first won them, like back in December. And with the New Day, their heel turn has completely flopped. Like, I don't remember seeing the New Day do anything relevant since their heel turn when they, verbally destroyed Big E. So it's like neither of these teams are relevant. Like, how did this even make the card compared to the TLC match that was announced for the following Friday after WrestleMania for the other set of the tag team titles? Like, how is that even possible? And also, didn't these two teams just face each other 2 weeks ago on the Raw in Minnesota? Like, what the hell? Like, and rightfully so. Rightfully, this match had no business being on WrestleMania because I was doing other stuff. This match was in the background, and I didn't even bother like checking this out because just like the previous match, this match was very boring as hell. And what made things even worse is that there was no Big E. There was no interference, and it was also a straight up tag team match, and the New Day won straight up. So yeah, no twists, no turns, just New Day winning straight up. It just goes further to the point that why didn't they just book the TLC match that they had for the WWE tag team titles? Utterly stupid and utterly useless. So we move on to the third match on the card, and that was Naomi taking on Jade Cargill. So the story of this match had Jade being found unconscious on top of a car and out of action indefinitely. And in the meantime, Bianca and Jade were the tag team champions at the time, going up into Survivor Series, where they were set to be a part of the Women's War Games match, which was, I still hold, in my opinion, was completely unnecessary, but that's besides the point. So Bianca was left without a partner for the tag team titles. So Naomi decided to step up in Jade's place. That quickly, which raised suspicions that, maybe that certain someone had a role in Jade's accident. So after months of either not caring about trying to identify her attacker or small teases, Jade returned at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view a month ago to seemingly attack Liv Morgan, who was accused by Bianca and Naomi as being the attacker of Jade, only to go after Naomi before the match started, which left Naomi unable to compete. So on the following Friday SmackDown, Naomi revealed that it was indeed her that pushed Jade into the car because she had her "I did it for The Rock, I did it for the people" moment. Yeah, she did it for Bianca and was tired of being overlooked and undervalued, and she felt abandoned when Bianca started the team with Jade after WrestleMania 40. Yeah, she felt left behind pretty much. So that led to the subsequent attacks and promos from both Naomi and Jade to get to this matchup here. So I felt like this probably had the most care out of all the Mania matches when it came to storytelling, and I thought it was all right for what it was. I just thought the big issue is that Bianca Belair should have stayed involved in this story because, this is the implosion of the big three. Bianca, she played her role inside of the chamber pretty well. You saw the distraught in her face. And you saw that moment where, she just got heartbroken by the news. And then you saw that stare between her and Jade. Because Jade, she feels like Bianca may have also played a role in that thing as well. So Bianca, it also kept her in there because I felt like, that big three should have been a big three triple threat match. So I just felt like, in my opinion, Bianca should have stayed in this story, have a triple threat match centered around, is Bianca the mastermind, or is Bianca going to have to make a choice as to who she has to side with? Something like that. As for Jade, she's also shown improvement with each match in the last year, but this is her first major singles match a year after she made her WWE in-ring debut. So a lot of pressure was mounting for her going into this match. So for the match itself, I thought it was okay, but for as personal as both women built it up to be, it was just that, okay. And it was slow paced at times, and it didn't help that the crowd wasn't into it at all. And I can't really blame them because it was hard to be invested in it, but it picked up late, which became a running theme after the opening match. Jade and Naomi did a few cool spots, so that kind of mattered. Jade caught Naomi mid-air to pull off an impressive vertical suplex. Naomi, she saved her own botch and turned it into a top rope bulldog. And then the finish saw Jade do an electric chair transition into a powerbomb before she hit her finisher, Jaded, for the win. So, okay match, but again, they couldn't really get the crowd into it until late in. But the result is what mattered. Jade won, but it seems like the feud's going to continue into Backlash. But I feel like, they should seriously bring Bianca back into the fold if they want fans to be invested into this feud again. Because this match was just meh. So then we get into the next matchup of night one, and that was the United States champion, L.A. Knight. Yeah, taking on the Samoan werewolf, Jacob Fatu. My issue with this match is that, it was thrown together last minute. But at the same time, not really, because Jacob Fatu has been feuding with Braun Strowman, and he kind of technically did win a number one contendership to earn this match. The thing is, it just came 2 weeks out from WrestleMania to set up this match. So, yeah, not really much to write home about. And another thing is that LA Knight won the U.S. title pretty late in the game, And he never should have lost that title to Shinsuke Nakamura back in November. So, I mean, if you really want to legitimize this title run for LA Knight, again, never should have lost that title back to Shinsuke. And, it also should have set up a showdown with Solo Sikoa, as they both have the larger story at play. So anyway, the positive, though, is that LA Knight was heading into this Mania as champion. And, yeah, it was his second straight WrestleMania last year where he faced AJ Styles. And now this year, he was going into champion. Problem is, though, it was clear and obvious he was going to lose to Jacob Fatu and probably get, quote-unquote, killed in the process. So anyway, this match, I thought it was pretty solid. And it was basically LA Knight in survival mode as he tried to overcome the Samoan werewolf that was Jacob Fatu. And I say it was the second best match of that night, although it wasn't saying much because, oh boy, we had a lot more to say about this night at WrestleMania. But both of them brought it. They definitely both brought it, their A game in this one. There were some crazy near falls in the second half of this match, like LA Knight's top rope German suplex, and then he caught Jacob Fatu when he did his moonsault, and he caught him midair and turned it into the blunt force trauma. And LA Knight thought he had to win, but Fatu grabbed the bottom rope and forced a rope break. And that spot where he did the BFT, caught him midair, that was like easily one of the best spots of the night. Like, I didn't think he caught him, but he did. That was great. Great work by both of them. So anyway, Fatu finished off LA Knight with the top rope Samoan drop, and 2 moonsaults later, he was the new U.S. champion. Again, still a pain that LA Knight didn't have a longer U.S. title run because, well, never should have lost it to Shinsuke. And Shinsuke had a pretty much wasted U.S. title run, a pointless one at that. And this second reign was pretty much transitional. I mean, Jacob Fatu's rapid rise paid off. That's what matters here. With a debut to remember, and I think he's going to have a dominant run with that title. And that starts with his post-WrestleMania feud with Solo Sikoa. And until Triple H can book someone equal to dethrone Jacob Fatu, yeah, Fatu's going to hold that title for a pretty lengthy time, in my opinion. So then we got this next matchup between Rey Mysterio versus El Grande Americano in what's basically a real-life SmackDown versus Raw 2011 storyline. Yeah, that kind of storyline. In case you don't know this storyline from SVR 2011, it's on YouTube. That storyline with Rey Mysterio and Toto Americano. It's basically this in real life, kind of. So anyway, the backstory behind this was Chad Gable losing to a bunch of luchadors earlier in the year. So he got some advice from Dominic, and he went on this leave to find a solution for his lucha problems. So his solution ended up being turning into a masked luchador by the name of El Grande Americano. The masked luchador by the name of El Grande Americano. Now, I'm not saying it's Chad Gable, but it's a bit of a coincidence. Again, not saying El Grande Americano is Chad Gable. And this mystery luchador ran rampant on the LWO, especially Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee. And this led to Rey asking Adam Pearce for this match here at WrestleMania to protect the pride and the honor of Lucha Libre. The problem with this match is just feels like, it should be on Raw instead of WrestleMania. And it just feels like a match that was slated to replace another certain match that we're going to discuss later. And we talk about night 2. And this match was actually in real danger of being canceled because the night before, Rey Mysterio got really hurt in 6-man tag team action. And I'm not sure why exactly Rey was competing. Like literally the night before he was supposed to compete on WrestleMania, which was a major red flag by Triple H. But anyway, it was reported that he didn't get seriously hurt. It was like a groin injury, but it was like a minor groin injury. But as long as Rey Mysterio's not seriously hurt, that's the best news you could possibly get. So in his place, he chose the recently debuted Rey Fenix during the pre-show, and that set up, the actual match that we got. So the actual match that we got, it was okay. it was whatever. It was pretty much a spot fest showcase for Ray Phoenix and El Grande Americano. And I gotta say, oh boy, the absurdity of El Grande Americano. Like, the character is kind of funny, and I don't know why people are getting so triggered by it, but his grand entrance or I should say grande entrance, featured this special Mexican filter, and it even featured a full-on mariachi band with everybody wearing El Grande masks. Oh man, as if there wasn't a bigger WrestleMania debut for this mystery luchador. Which, by the way, Michael Cole, man, there wasn't any more reasons to hate you. Man, stop falsely accusing people. This man kept falsely accusing El Grande Americano of being Chad Gable. Like, where's your proof? Where's your evidence, man? Chad Gable had already proven that he's not El Grande Americano when El Grande first made his way into the scene. Shame on you, Michael Cole. Anyways, the match, okay, again, it was decent, but I feel like when we got to the finish, they couldn't do what they originally planned for Ray and El Grande. But anyway, the finish did see El Grande use the metal plate he slid into his mask he had been using to cheat since his debut, and Ray kicked his ankle into it, allowing El Grande to use his steel head to headbutt Ray Phoenix twice to win his Mania debut. Not much else to comment on this match because it was thrown together last minute because of Rey Mysterio's injury. But neither guy really lost anything in the end because, again, it was a last minute match, and I just didn't really have much to invest into because it was just that, outside of El Grande Americano's grande entrance. So then we had our second to last matchup of night one, and that was the Women's Championship on the line as Tiffany Stratton defended her title against the Royal Rumble winner, Charlotte Flair. So Charlotte Flair returned from her ACL, MCL tear in December of 2023. She came back in the Royal Rumble match earlier this year and won the damn thing, and chose Tiffany Stratton to set this up. But oh boy, the whole feud that we pretty much asked for in the YWC and Twitter and Instagram, a lot of people like myself had been clamoring for. Yeah, it ended up being a damn mess. And it was bad from the jump. Like, Charlotte immediately winning the Royal Rumble was the problem, because fans were rejecting it even before she got back, because it would have been preferred that, she showed a little bit more adversity, show her journey of recovery from a major injury. But instead, Triple H went the direction of immediately giving Charlotte Flair the Royal Rumble. No, don't let her win the Elimination Chamber. Just have her straight up win the Royal Rumble match. And as a result, fans also forced Charlotte Flair being the heel, because they weren't having it with Charlotte. They didn't want Charlotte to be this babyface. And in the process, they also fully transitioned Tiffany Stratton into a babyface. I mean, people were into Tiffany Stratton already before Charlotte came back, but it was only a matter of time before you can only keep Tiffany as a heel. And when it came to the feud itself, just like with Jay and Gunther, this suffered from repetitive segments that involved them fighting. And then when they decided to switch things up, it got real messy. They had that sit-down segment in, I think it was Barcelona or wherever they were in the international tour. And that's when Charlotte went to business for herself. Just kept talking over her. Tiffany just kept yapping over her. Didn't let Tiffany get her point across. And it didn't help either once they got back to the States. When Tiffany made, I don't know which line it was on the script. And that's when Charlotte went off script, because Charlotte was too sensitive to the Chicago crowd. And, well, she couldn't get her lines in. And Tiffany clapped back, throwing it something about Charlotte's recent divorce. So, yeah, it became a messy feud, but they decided to, work it out, I guess, I think. And, yeah, decide to, try to make it, work around it and make it seem like it's personal. And that's pretty much how the match played out. Messy and as stiff as the reported backstage beef was in the weeks leading up to this. But I found it a little interesting because you didn't know who was going to put who over. Still, it was pretty clunky because Charlotte was a botch machine once again, and Tiffany had her fair share of botches in this match as well. And this was her Mania debut, and that didn't help matters either. So the whole match was pretty much a mess. But the most important thing was the end result. And I did like this part, though, because even though they did the typical Charlotte attacks the knee to have Charlotte soften up for her opponent for the figure eight, Triple H at least made Tiffany look smart here. He made her smart to escape Charlotte and trying to stop that figure eight at every turn, especially by going after Charlotte's own surgically repaired knee. So Tiffany Stratton retained the title by hitting her with the rolling senton and setting up Charlotte with the prettiest moonsault ever and retained the title in her Mania debut. Like, I'm surprised that Charlotte actually put Tiffany over. So they got the result correct. Now, I'm not sure where both of them go from here, but yeah, keep them away from each other after this. They clearly don't work well together. They don't have any chemistry in the ring. So yeah, I'm not sure where they go from here. I guess the best result would be to swap Tiffany over to Raw if they're going to do the WWE draft again and put the Women's World Champion, whoever that would be, on SmackDown for them to get fed to Charlotte or whatever. Even better, let Charlotte do something that doesn't involve a title for once in her career. How about that? So then we had our main event of night one, and that was the triple threat. Roman Reigns taking on CM Punk and Seth Rollins. I didn't have an issue with this being the main event. The issue was the story. It was getting a little too convoluted for my taste. Because the thing was, they easily could have been separate one-on-one matches. Whether it was Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins because they had a ton of history going back to their Shield days, or Roman Reigns versus Roman Reigns versus CM Punk because, well, they were both Paul Heyman guys, and Paul Heyman could have made a choice, or they could have done Seth Rollins versus CM Punk, the trilogy match, with maybe a Hell in a Cell stipulation, but they decided to, end that one early with just 2 matches in. Again, the problem, in my opinion, stems from Roman Reigns really not having anything to do at this WrestleMania because The Rock bailed out of this WrestleMania and decided not to face Roman Reigns, that is, for the 3rd straight year. Obviously reasons last year, and then 2 years ago, not sure what happened there. So the story for the casual fan, not much to speak of. It's pretty much all 3 guys fighting over Paul Heyman, although there was some intrigue from Seth pulling the strings in either him and Heyman coming together or Heyman leaving with no one. I still was in the firm belief that this was the right match to main event night one, but the problem was it's like there's not really any stakes involved. I mean, sure, there was that little story of who would Paul Heyman leave with, but it's just like there was nothing else. That's it. Like, really? Like, there's no number 1 contendership or anything like that? Really? Like, come on now. At least the match delivered. At least the match was like so damn good. But I really have to question Seth's fashion choices because why the hell was he dressed in a trash bag? Why the hell was he wearing a trash bag and he had a flamethrower attached to the hip? Like, come on now, Seth. It's like your fashion choices were already questionable as it was, but it's like for your Mania main event entrance, a trash bag? Really? For CM Punk, this was his first ever WrestleMania main event, and I kind of dug this entrance. You had the pre-match vignette, and it showcased his career, and it had his old entrance theme. This fire burns. Like, that was pretty nostalgic. And then, just like his last Mania entrance from WrestleMania 29 over 10 years ago, the band playing his theme song, Living Color, performed his entrance live again. And then Roman Reigns just came out on his own. But the match, again, it showed why they earned the main event spot of night one over both women's title matches where everyone was clamoring for either Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte or Io, Rhea, Bianca. Oh, it should have main event in night one. Sorry. Even with a match that had no stakes, all 3 men showed out for this one. again, I still wanted some sort of stakes, whether it was number one contendership or something. But regardless, this still had a lot of nonstop action from the jump that not only showed why all three of them also hated each other, but with some great spots, near falls, like Roman diving onto Punk and Seth into the crowd. Seth doing another one of those spear pedigree counters onto Roman, which never gets old, by the way. And then Punk hitting the curb stomp on Roman, and then the GTS on Seth for a near fall. Obviously, the biggest story to come out of this match was Paul Heyman's allegiance. Would he go with his best friend CM Punk or go back to his tribal chief Roman Reigns? And the end of this match saw the drama unfold, with him passing the chair to CM Punk. And then, as he was about to hit Roman with the chair, he low-blowed his best friend, and he gave the chair to his tribal chief. But here's the kicker. After Roman got his shots on Punk, and Paul Heyman told Roman to get Seth again, Heyman suddenly did the unexpected. Well, not really. Heyman suddenly did the same to Roman. Hit him right in the dick. Hit him right in the dick as Roman was about to hit Seth. So, yeah, once again, Seth being that architect. And one familiar chair shot to the back and a curb stomp later. And Paul Heyman stood tall with this new Paul Heyman guy, Seth Rollins. So, man, I still think the match still would have benefited from some kind of stakes other than putting Paul Heyman on a pole. I'm still kind of stunned by the ending, even if it was pretty predictable. I just wonder what the long game is by putting Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman together. I think, I think part of Seth and Heyman being together is the last piece of the puzzle of Roman finally opening up and acknowledging that he's pretty much been a dick that won't be accountable for his actions in the last 5 years. Pretty much what Cody talked about in the lead up to WrestleMania 39. A chief with no tribe, that promo. And yeah, that tribe finally burning down. And Heyman was the last piece of the puzzle. But when I go back to Seth and Heyman, does Seth really benefit from having Paul Heyman? Does he really need Paul Heyman by his side? Or is this just Seth doing this to fuck with Roman? I don't know. I don't know where this is leading to. But either way, when you look at night one, like this, yeah, like if this was like one singular night, yeah, this was like, this is terrible. This is terrible. Like there was like no flow. There was like bad action. Like there was like no reason to care about most of the matches outside of the main event. But at least with they had some of the right results, like Jey Uso winning, Tiffany Stratton retaining. And then the U.S. title match was outside of the main event was like the most solid one of the night. But again, it's not saying much. But this night one was so bad. It is like if this was a singular night, this would have surpassed WrestleMania 9 as the worst. Like the worst WrestleMania of all time. Like there was no star power, no nothing, like no substance on this show. Like even with the turn by Seth Rollins, this wouldn't have saved the show. Like really, it wouldn't have. So how would night 2 fare? How would night 2 fare? And try to salvage night 1. Try to salvage this overall WrestleMania. So let's look at it as we open up the show with the Women's World Championship on the line as Io Sky took on Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley. How did this triple threat even come about? And that's where my issues come right out of the gate. Inserting Io Sky into what should have been a layup match that, while I necessarily didn't want, but it's what many people wanted, and that was Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair at WrestleMania for the Women's World Championship. But because the IWC was whining and complaining about Io not having a clear path for WrestleMania or being involved in the main title picture at the grandest stage of them all, Triple H caved in. for someone that doesn't listen to the internet fans. Well, he clearly did here, and decided to stun everyone by giving the title to Io. Yes, a month before WrestleMania. Yeah, and that's probably the most stupidest part of them all. Giving Io the title on a shock victory right before WrestleMania. Yeah, I know it's only a month, but still, the timing was so off. So yeah, Triple H basically had Rhea win the title 2 months earlier from someone that, and holding down the fort in 2024, and Rhea basically did nothing with it. And afterwards, Rhea would whine and cry her way into forcing this triple threat for a month. And then you have Bianca. Bianca, who honestly, like I said, should have stayed involved in the Naomi and Jade story, because she would have made that story a lot more intriguing on the choice she had to make between her two friends fighting and whether she was the mastermind behind Jade's attack. But instead, now you have people starting to turn on her, because not just for her stale EST, I'm the EST of WWE character, but, well, you also have Rhea's fan base. That kind of fan base. That side of her fans. Yeah. I'm not going to go any further depth in that, but yeah, that side of Rhea's fan base is coming out of the woodworks to, get people to turn on Bianca Belair. But worst of all, the bad booking in general just exposed Triple H's complete laziness and favoritism that he has for certain individuals, not just in the women's division, but just in general as well. Rhea, just like in the feud with Liv Morgan, well, stood tall 90% of the time. And only just now the IWC was realizing that, because it's Bianca and Io, pretty much. Speaking of Liv, it's funny how people are now just saying how big of a mistake it was to take the women's title off of her. But, well, you deserve what you get. You deserve what you get for, advocating for taking that title off of Liv. And now, look where you are now. But for the match itself, I thought it was okay. I just didn't have much of a reason to care for either woman. But at least Triple H got the result right with Io winning, even if it was predictable. She hit that over the moonsault onto Bianca after Bianca hit the KOD onto Rhea. So, yeah, it was a whatever match. But it'll be interesting to see who faces Io at the next pay-per-view, because, well, a lot of women got fucked over in not just this WrestleMania, but prior to it. So, yeah, Io doesn't really have a lot of realistic challengers right now, and credible challengers right now. So, it'll be interesting going forward, but more interesting for Rhea and to see if Triple H can finally book her to have some actual character progression and go on a redemption arc of sorts. Maybe a move to SmackDown can help with that. Meanwhile, for Bianca, will she finally be inserted into this Jade and Naomi story where she should have been in the first place? We'll see. Meanwhile, the next match we saw was Sin City street fight between Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. At least these two kind of had a history of sorts, with Damian Priest cashing in his Money in the Bank contract at the last WrestleMania on Drew McIntyre, who won the title in a mere, well, it didn't even take Drew McIntyre 5 minutes to hold on to that title at last year's Mania. And then Priest went on to beat Drew on 2 occasions last year to keep the title, but with some help from CM Punk. And then earlier this year, Priest also eliminated Drew from the Rumble, leading to Drew getting some payback a month later in the Elimination Chamber to set up this match. And then you saw the rest of the Bill FC, a couple of fights, whether backstage or ringside, which led to this being a street fight. So they did have some backstory, I'll give it that. But the fan interest in Damian Priest, it's fallen drastically since being booked like Teemu Undertaker that has Super Cena powers. It's like, yeah, ever since being one half of the Terror Twins, Rhea Ripley, and that whole New Judgment Day feud, it like people have turned on Damian Priest. Like, it's like, especially with that beatdown on Dom a couple months ago, it's like people didn't know how to feel about the man. So, meanwhile, for Drew, he also just feels like another bit player. Despite being one of WWE's MVPs last year, this is his reward? Really? Not like an Intercontinental title, nor a world title for that. This is like feuding with Damian Priest. Really. I mean, the match itself was okay at best. There were some nice spots, like Drew reversing Old School, pushing Damian off the ropes through into 2 tables, and then sandwiching Priest's head with a Claymore into a chair to win the match. The thing is that most of this match felt slow. It dragged on. Like I felt like what should have finished the match was the Future Shock DDT onto the steel steps that should have ended the match for Drew McIntyre to win that. I don't know why it didn't, but it didn't. But again, at least Triple H got the result correct. And, well, you better have something lined up for Drew in, what's now a pretty crowded main event scene. So the next matchup we saw was the Fatal 4-Way Intercontinental Championship match. Braun Breaker defending his title against Penta, Finn Balor, and Dominic Mysterio. And this Intercontinental title scene was pretty convoluted at first because at first Triple H teased Braun Breaker facing AJ Styles. Then it was Ludwig Kaiser. Then it was Sheamus. Before finally settling on Braun Breaker facing Penta. And then Finn Balor and Dominic's story of dissension getting interjected into this match. And then that made this a fatal 4-way. The thing is with Dom and Finn, they haven't won a match in forever. And to the eyes of all fans alike, they didn't see them as a credible champion because, again, they didn't win all that much prior to this point. And if they were to win this match, they wouldn't be looked at as a credible champion. But the story was there, though, if they were to engage in a title feud post-WrestleMania. They did have the story, at least. But, yeah, the story has also overshadowed Braun Breaker, who was clearly a rising star. But it's just that creative has been so inconsistent with them. And Penta, to a degree, as well. But they both did a nice job to making sure they stay hot in the lead up to this. And at least going into the match, it was a sleeper for match of the weekend. And while it was probably short of that because, well, there was the main event of night one, this still delivered because all 4 men, they did great. They shone bright. Yes, that even includes Finn Balor. Braun Breaker, he was the best of the bunch with his freaky athleticism and pretty much spearing everyone in sight. Penta shined as well with his own strong luchador background and charisma. But the bigger story at play was, of course, with the eventual dissension of Dom and Finn, which saw them initially work together until late in the match where Dom, being as opportunistic as he is, trying to hit that 619 on Finn, only for Finn to catch him, and then Finn beat his butt down. And that narrative played a major role in the closing moments of the match as Carlito came out to help his members, only to eat a spear again from Braun Breaker, this time even worse, through the announce table. But then you go back to the ring. It was a flurry to the finish. Dom hit a 619 on Braun Breaker, but Finn stopped him from hitting the frog splash to seemingly knock him out. And then Finn hit the coup de grace on Braun, and then as he was pinning him, Dom ate the frog splash out of nowhere. He hit the frog splash out of nowhere onto Finn, and as opportunistic as he was, he won the Intercontinental Championship by pinning his fellow Judgment Day member, Finn Balor. So, yeah, our boy, Daddy Dom, gets the title and the attendees all night. It was probably a good night for him in Vegas. And after months of creative abuse by Triple H since SummerSlam and some subtle storytelling that was done by himself and not Noseman, he finally gets rewarded with his first singles main roster title, and he got a great ovation to it. And you could tell how he reacted, how he's emotional to it. It was great for him. He did great work last year alongside Liv and telling one of the best summer stories, and probably one of the best stories overall, up to SummerSlam at least, in last year. And yeah, one half of WWE's most hated couples, the most hated couple in WWE. He finally gets his due. I just wish Liv was there to celebrate with him so we can get, a little WrestleMania moment between the two. But yeah, as for the grander scale of things, I think we all know where this is headed between Daddy Dom and Finn Balor next, post WrestleMania. So then we get the Randy Orton Open Challenge. So this was originally supposed to be Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens, but Owens revealed 2 weeks prior that he needed neck surgery. And the timing of this announcement really messed things up, and that left Randy Orton without an opponent. I can't really criticize how things went down with Owens and this injury because, I have no idea when Owens picked up this injury prior to him revealing that he needed neck surgery. So I can't really fault him that much for it. So Randy Orton announced 2 days prior to WrestleMania that, instead of building up a last minute feud, he instead was going to have an open challenge. So who answered the call? Well, I guess all we had to do was say his name and he'll appear, the TNA World Champion. He answered the call. Joe Hendry answered the call in his biggest spotlight yet. And both he and Orton, he had a short but fun showcase match. And I love the ending shot of Joe Hendry doing his signature pose, turning around, and then Orton just from out of the shot, he flew back in and hit the RKO out of nowhere for the win. I love that. That's going to be a meme. I knew that's going to be a meme that's going to be very often used. And honestly, for what it was, for such a last minute match, to try to come something up out of the blue, I can't be upset by that. I can't be upset by how things came together. Orton won because for as much as Hendry could use a win like that for him and TNA, Orton needed this too because he hadn't won at WrestleMania in over 6 years. So definitely need that. Plus, he's for sure going to be wrestling at Backlash in his hometown of St. Louis. And it's more than likely he's going to be wrestling in the main event against a certain someone for a certain title. Meanwhile, the appearance alone by Joe Hendry gave him and TNA the biggest spotlight in forever. And even if he didn't win the actual match, and it's left a sour taste in some people's mouths, and how he lost the match too, and the post-match stuff. I mean, it's still a win in itself. So, yeah, I like the reveal of Joe Hendry being the mystery opponent for Randy Orton. Yeah, it turned out to be a win-win for everybody involved. Then we moved on to the next match, and it was AJ Styles taking on Logan Paul. I didn't really have a lot of interest in this match because, well, Logan Paul wasn't there for most of it, and it was a match that was set up like 3 weeks prior. And again, when you don't have someone there most of the time, like 2 out of the 3 weeks, it's hard to get invested in. There's like basically no backstory in this match. And the match itself, for as 2 really good wrestlers that both AJ and Logan were, it was just okay at best. Like it really was. And that's kind of a shame. So the finish saw one of Logan's cronies try to pass the brass knuckles to him, only to be stopped by Karrion Kross, who then tried to convince AJ Styles to use it. I did remember that Karrion Kross was trying to get AJ to come to the dark side, which Karrion Kross is often trying to do. So anyway, AJ refused and knocked out Karrion Kross, only to be hit by Logan's titanium fist. And Logan used his new finisher, the pulverizer, whatever they call it, to win the match. So, yeah, it was all right at best. I mean, not the worst match in the world, but it's just that for as really good as Logan Paul is in the ring, and he's actually kind of charismatic, there just really doesn't seem anything for him to do right now. Again, he said he was going to be full-time, but he's not really full-time. And also, like I said, there was no heat to this match at all. So it was hard for me to get invested into it. So it's like, what are you going to get me to care for right now? So anyway, you had the second to last match of this WrestleMania, and that was the Women's Tag Team Championship match that had the champions, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, take on the Women's Intercontinental Champion, Lyra Valkyria and Bayley. Or so we thought. That was because Bayley was attacked backstage a day before, leaving Lyra Valkyria to quickly find a partner in the next 24 hours, or the match was going to be canceled. And we all knew this was where this was heading. You didn't have to be a casual, I don't know. How do you phrase that? You can even be a filthy casual to know where this was going to head, who that mystery partner was going to be for Lyra Valkyria. And no surprise, That partner ended up being the return of the Mon, the stale repetitive Mon, Becky Lynch. And, well, I thought it was going to be a turn. But no. She straight up beats Liv Morgan. She pins Liv Morgan and gets her own form of revenge on Liv Morgan. And pins her with the rock bottom to take away the titles from her and Raquel Rodriguez. And what was pretty much a boring match. I don't even want to comment on this. Like on the match itself, at least. Because there are so many problems with this. There are so many more problems on this. Like, I can rant and rave all day about this. But it's pretty obvious that this is a clear and last-minute attempt by Triple H to get Liv Morgan and, well, Bayley on the card. And it was well apparent when he had Nick Aldis go out there on SmackDown and announce that that tag gauntlet out of the blue 2 weeks prior to WrestleMania. And Bayley and the Women's IC champion Lyra were revealed as one of those teams to compete in, like, literally 3 days before they're set to face each other for Lyra's IC title on Raw. And after that match, they both basically buried the non-existent women's tag team division by running through the gauntlet. As if the women's tag team division wasn't already buried enough, the makeshift tag team buries it even further. Nearly in a gauntlet where nearly every team that also was makeshift got no pop. And then you also had this match itself. A boring match. Becky Lynch, sure, got a ovation. But this match was basically all about her. This is basically all about Becky Lynch and further burying everyone else. It also didn't really help. Did this match even really help Lyra Valkyria at the latest, in the slightest? Like, it wasn't even about Lyra. It wasn't even about Lyra. But probably the most damning of all is how, once again, Triple H continues to sabotage Liv Morgan. Like, can we talk about how Triple H has done Liv dirty in the last 8 months since SummerSlam? And how he's once again tried to bury her on the biggest stage? Like, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Like, did Liv do something backstage to piss off Noseman? Did she get too over for Noseman? Is she not one of her favorites? Like, what's the issue here? Like, no matter how well she does promoting the WWE, whether it's alone or with Dom, Raquel, it just doesn't seem to matter. Because Triple H doesn't book her the way that she promotes herself, or how much Triple H calls her a megastar. Because look at what he does to her. Has her drop the Women's World title to Rhea, a title that Rhea would end up having a useless reign with, and then sends her to the Graveyard Tag Team division, where she gives her the tag team titles as a last-minute consolation prize, this last-minute tag team title match at WrestleMania, and then lose said consolation prize to someone that hasn't wrestled in nearly a year. And I get it. This was Becky Lynch's return and Becky Lynch's revenge against Liv. But at the cost of Liv, again, you couldn't have had Raquel eat the pin. Yeah, great way to reward your MVP and great way to reward your megastar of your women's division in the last year. Now, some fans will continue to say that, oh, Triple H can always reward Liv later with a big match at SummerSlam since it's in her home state of New Jersey. But is that even guaranteed? Is that even guaranteed going forward? Is anything even guaranteed for Liv Morgan going forward? And I'm not trying to be pessimistic. Oh, I kind of technically am being pessimistic. But is anything even guaranteed for Liv Morgan when it comes to a major push for either top title, even a mid-card title, or in general? Because, well, look who Noseman is trying to push. Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, Bianca Belair, and who knows who Noseman would want to push, like down from NXT. Jordan Grace, Giulia, Stephanie Valkyrie, Roxanne Perez. Well, he might even try to sign someone else that he could consider a favorite, just to piss off Tony Khan. And now that you have Becky Lynch, his other favorite, back in the fold, and likely going to set up something with Lyra down the line, it's going to be harder for Liv's contention window to be reclaimed by her. I'm just saying, it's kind of like in sports, I don't really like using the sports comparison with champion, but I have to do it. Championship windows can close in the blink of an eye. And Liv's window for competing for championships, even being just a contender for championships, is fading pretty quickly. It's starting to fade. And I hate that for her. I really hate that for her because she has elevated her stock that fast. And fans, whether you're a hardcore or a casual, are finally starting to see that. And I hate that what Triple H is doing to her. And I don't want to make it just all about Liv because Bayley suffered through this too. Because she, a year ago, became women's champion. Her reign sucked though. But to just being written off the card in the last minute, that was just terrible. The whole angle was terrible. Becky's return was terrible. In the way they went about it, just basically burying everyone but Becky and Lyra. And Lyra doesn't really benefit from this unless Becky can somehow magically turn her around. I just don't get it. It also buried the non-existent tag team division even further, and makes the mid-card titles useless. Useless, I tell you. So to put it in short, Liv and Raquel, they should have just defended their titles on Stand and Deliver, NXT that is, against either one of the teams down in NXT, because at least their tag team division is somewhat existent, but not by much. And to wrap it up, Liv deserved much better for her strongest year. And I just hope it just better not get much worse from here on out for her, because if it does, people are going to have a lot of serious issues. And judging from how things are on socials, it's starting to get, they're really pissed off. They're really pissed off about how Noseman is fucking her over. So then we get to the main event of this WrestleMania, and that was the WWE Champion Cody Rhodes putting his title on the line against John Cena. Cena won the Elimination Chamber to earn this title match, and immediately afterwards had one of the biggest heel turns in modern history by selling his soul to The Rock in Toronto and turned heel on Cody Rhodes. But that's probably one of the issues with this match. There wasn't really a follow-up to, Cena selling his soul to The Rock. No mention of The Rock since the Chamber pay-per-view, not even via satellite, to explain his alliance with Cena, or Cena explaining his alliance with The Rock. And both of their limited schedules made it very difficult for them to progress the story. And yeah, they explained why they joined forces and the narrative shifting about Cena, making it more about the fans rather than why he sold out to The Rock. It hurt this build. And the other issue is that, his anger toward the fans, it came 5+ years too late. Actually, 10+ years too late. Because once he went part-time, fans had grown to appreciate him more and more. Because the more time you're away, the more fans will appreciate you. They did away with the booing for some parts of it in the weeks leading up to Mania, at least in the international market. And then Cody standing tall in the last two segments that they went physical, barely. It also pretty much gave away the ending to this WrestleMania. So this didn't really help matters either. But when it came to the match itself, I thought it was pretty good, in contrast to what other people think. And I liked how each direction of each person was going with. Cody being resilient, he wasn't going to go away quietly, taking 4 FUs, refusing to tap out to the STF, and the desperation of Cena, just doing anything and everything to win this match, including cheating. Yes, Cena the cheater. It was, and it also was kind of clear and obvious that Cena wasn't used to being a heel. Being the heel in the match, trying to do all this stuff to get heel heat. He hadn't been a heel in over 20+ years. It was pretty obvious that he was trying to do all this stuff again, and he was clearly rusty at it. So, yeah, they were actually having a good match until Travis Scott came out. When Cena hit that 4th FU. Wouldn't you think that, when Travis Scott would come out is when Cody was about to pin Cena for the win, not when Cena had just hit the 4th FU and Cody kicked out. That's kind of a logic gap there. So anyway, Cody hit the crossroads on Travis Scott to knock him out, but that allowed Cena to grab the WWE title, which got them both in a tug of war. But Cody refused to cheat to win, and that led to his downfall, allowing Cena to dick kick him, just like an Elimination Chamber, and hit Cody with the title to win the WWE title and pass Ric Flair for the record. I thought that was kind of a weird finish. Just Cody gets hit with the title, and Cena wins it off of that. No 5th AA, just Cody loses on a knockout via the title. I thought that was weird. I thought it was a good match, just a good match, not a very good match or a great match, just a good match. Although a weird ending, and Cena gets the record-breaking 17 title, but I do have a lot of serious issues with this match. Like Travis Scott coming out the wrong time, but especially with The Rock not showing up at all in this match. Like, it makes the Rock's involvement pretty pointless, like, in this story. It felt like pretty desperate. Like, Triple H could have easily done this heel turn from Cena without The Rock. And he could have literally had the same story. But it's clear that Triple H was desperate because Mania, people weren't buying the tickets, and it's clear that people were also turning on the build for WrestleMania. So Triple H called The Rock, and when The Rock, he dipped after the Elimination Chamber, there's clearly no follow-up plan for that Cena heel turn. But The Rock is also not to blame either because, well, he once again couldn't make up his mind about whether or not he was going to be able to do WrestleMania. And not only did he screw up Roman Reigns' match, but he also screwed up this match as well because, well, he was very non-committal. So, yeah, like, where was The Rock? Like, why was he more involved? Like, he couldn't, like, go on a Zoom call to get his input. Like, he couldn't have shown up once, like, on the road to WrestleMania. Like, he couldn't have taken a flight to Vegas and, like, show up to distract Cody. Like, that like, The Rock's lack of involvement was very disappointing. So I'm glad that Cena broke the record and got the WWE title back, but I just wish The Rock was more committed during the build, as well as Cena too, because he's also not to blame. But I get he had his own filming schedule. So overall, with this WrestleMania, the build was one of the worst of all time, and this Mania pretty much justified it. Like, some of the matches had the right results, but it was very hard to get invested into the show as a whole because either there was no story to any of the matches. A lot of the matches were just thrown together like a dartboard. Certain people got fucked over, or the matches itself were just very clunky in general. Also, like, did WWE really do anything to get the casuals to stick around for the next couple months? Like, other than, the Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman alliance, the new Intercontinental Champion, and, John Cena having his 17th world title run, because he is advertised for more dates. But other than those three things, is there going to be anything for casuals to stick around to see the WWE, like, fully? For me, I don't know. Triple H didn't do a really good job of selling me on that. And you also have to add to the fact that there's going to be another 2-night event. SummerSlam. The first ever 2-night SummerSlam. And if you thought that Triple H did a good job on building up this 2-night WrestleMania, you must be smoking something, because Triple H is going to have to build up a 2-night SummerSlam as well, but with even shorter amount of time. With all the pay-per-views he's just announced for the summer. Worlds Collide, Money in the Bank, and then reportedly you got Night of Champions and Evolution 2 all in the span of a month. You can't be for real, man. You cannot be for real. So this WrestleMania overall, I thought it was going to be one of the worst because of the build, and it's going to be a big-ass dud. I mean, it was still pretty I don't know if I say it was still one of the worst of all time, but it was still a big dud. It, like, not a big ass dud, but it was still a dud, in my opinion, because the matches were clunky. There's nothing to really be invested to both during the show and coming out of the show. Not a lot, not much at least. And it didn't have that WrestleMania feeling all throughout the show. Like, I just couldn't really get into a lot of the matches. Like, I just felt empty coming out of this WrestleMania. I really did. And that's not a good feeling going out of this WrestleMania. So, and again, I ask, is there really anything to look forward to for the next couple of months? Actually, for the next several months as we go to SummerSlam. At least last year, yeah, the feud with Punk and Drew, the summer of Liv and Dom. Yeah, at least had those two things to look forward to. But with this year, I don't know, man. I don't know. A lot of uncertainty for the WWE, regardless of them gaslighting you into thinking that they're making all this money, breaking these gates, all that stuff. A lot of uncertainty right now for the WWE. But I'd like to know your thoughts on WrestleMania 41 and, yeah, what was your favorite match, favorite moment, worst moment? Yeah, let me know your opinions on WrestleMania 41 in the comments below on YouTube, or slide into the DMs on my socials at Very Cold Lasagna. But that is going to do it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna, episode number 266 of this icy yet spicy podcast on the world of sports. And in the next episode, we return to talk some football because the NFL draft is this week. And we're going to be diving deep in my filthy casual thoughts on all the teams that are going to be drafting in the first round and their needs for, well, what they need in this draft and going forward. So I can't wait to talk about the draft again and try to give you my analysis on what all these teams need going into the draft that's going to happen in Green Bay this coming week. So until then, keep the lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. Until I see ya, when I see you in the next one, peace out.